Marcus Wellington stood in the driveway of his enormous house, staring at the new maid like she had just grown a second head. "What did you just say?" he asked, his voice shaking. Grace didn't blink. She was young, maybe 28, with strong hands and calm eyes. She held a garden hose in one hand, water dripping onto the hot concrete. "I said I'll wash your mom, and she'll walk." Marcus laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh that comes when you're so angry you don't know what else to do. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Do you know who I am? Do you know what doctors I've hired? "I know exactly who you are," Grace said quietly. "You're the son who bought his mother every comfort in the world. But comfort isn't the same as healing." Marcus felt his face turn red. He wore a navy blue suit that cost more than most people earned in a month. His watch was Swiss. His shoes were Italian. Everything about him screamed money and power. But right now, standing in front of this simple maid with dirt under her fingernails, he felt small. Behind him, in a wheelchair on the porch, sat Catherine Wellington. She was 78 years old, with silver hair and gentle eyes that rarely moved from the garden she loved. For 12 years, 12 long years, she hadn't walked. The doctors said her spine was damaged. They said the nerves were dead. They said there was nothing anyone could do except make her comfortable. And Marcus had made her comfortable. Oh, how he had made her comfortable. The wheelchair was electric and cost $40,000. Her room had a hospital bed that adjusted at the touch of a button. Nurses came every day. Physical therapists visited every week, though they only moved her legs around gently and called it maintaining flexibility. Catherine had the best of everything, except hope. "You need to leave," Marcus said, his jaw tight. "Right now. Pack your things and get off my property." "No," Grace said simply. Marcus blinked. People didn't say no to him. Ever. "Excuse me?" "Your mother hired me," Grace said, "and I'm not leaving until I try." "Try what?" "To spray my paralyzed mother with a garden hose? Are you insane?" Grace turned and looked at Catherine. "Mrs. Wellington, do you want me to try?" Everyone went silent. The birds stopped singing. The wind stopped blowing. Even the water stopped dripping from the hose, or at least it seemed that way to Marcus. Catherine's lips moved. Her voice was small, like a whisper carried on smoke. "Yes." Marcus felt like the ground had opened beneath his feet. "Mom, you can't be serious. This woman is talking nonsense. We've seen the best neurologists in the country. Dr. Harrison, Dr. Chun, that specialist from Switzerland." "All those doctors," Grace interrupted. "When was the last time any of them actually touched your mother? When was the last time they asked her to try?" Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it. He thought back through the years of appointments. The doctors always looked at charts. They discussed medications. They nodded seriously and talked about quality of life. But touch her? Really examine her? Ask her to attempt movement? Not in years. Maybe not since the very beginning. "That's what I thought," Grace said, reading his silence. "They gave up, and then you gave up, and then she gave up. But I won't." "This is crazy," Marcus said, but his voice had lost its edge. "Maybe," Grace agreed. "But what if I'm right? What if your mother's body just needs to be woken up? What if 12 years of sitting still has put her nervous system to sleep, and it just needs a shock to remember what it can do?" "That's not how paralysis works." "Are you a doctor?" "No, but—" "Neither am I," Grace said. "But I grew up taking care of my grandmother. Same story as your mom. Car accident. Doctors said she'd never walk. But I didn't listen. I worked with her every single day. Cold water, hot water, ice, massage, movement, anything to wake her body up. And after 2 years, she walked again." Marcus felt tears burning behind his eyes. He didn't know if they were tears of anger or hope or fear. Maybe all three. And what if you're wrong? What if you hurt her? What if you give her hope and it destroys her when it doesn't work? Grace looked at him with those calm, steady eyes. "What if I'm right and you stop me from trying? Could you live with that?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Catherine's voice came again, stronger this time. "Marcus, let her try. Please. I've been comfortable for 12 years. I don't want comfortable anymore. I want to feel something. Marcus looked at his mother, really looked at her. Her eyes were shining with something he hadn't seen in over a decade. Life. He swallowed hard. Fine, but if anything goes wrong, I'll leave immediately, Grace promised. You have my word. Marcus nodded slowly. His heart hammered in his chest. He felt like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, about to jump into darkness. Grace turned on the hose. Cold water rushed out, sparkling in the afternoon sun. Mrs. Wellington, she said gently, are you ready? Catherine nodded, and Grace pointed the hose at her feet. The cold water hit Catherine's feet like a lightning bolt. She gasped. Her whole body went rigid. Her hands gripped the wheelchair arms so hard her knuckles turned white. Mom! Marcus lunged forward, but Grace held up a free hand. Wait, she said firmly. Mrs. Wellington, what do you feel? Catherine's eyes were wide. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. I feel cold. It's cold. Marcus froze. You can feel it? Yes, Catherine whispered, staring down at her feet like they belonged to a stranger. I can feel it. Grace slowly moved the water up to Catherine's ankles, then her calves. The older woman's breathing came faster, sharper. Small sounds escaped her throat. Not quite words, not quite cries. The doctor said your nerves were dead, Grace said, keeping the water moving. But dead things don't feel cold, do they? No, Catherine breathed. They don't. Marcus felt dizzy. He grabbed the porch railing to steady himself. But the MRIs, the tests, were done 12 years ago, Grace said, not taking her eyes off Catherine. Mrs. Wellington, did anyone ever test you again? Did anyone ever ask if things had changed? Catherine shook her head slowly. A tear rolled down her cheek. They said there was no point. They said to accept it and move on. So I did. I stopped trying to feel anything. I stopped paying attention. I thought my body was broken, so I just let it go quiet. You didn't let it go quiet, Grace said gently, turning off the hose. You buried it. But buried things aren't dead. They're just sleeping. And now we're going to wake it up. Marcus ran his hand through his hair. His expensive suit suddenly felt too tight, too formal, too wrong for this moment. This doesn't make sense. If she could feel all this time, why didn't the physical therapist notice? Did they ever use cold water? Grace asked. Marcus thought back. No, they used warm towels, gentle massage. Everything was designed to be comfortable. Exactly, Grace said. Comfort doesn't wake anything up. Your body doesn't pay attention to comfort. It pays attention to surprise, to shock, to things that are different. She knelt beside Catherine's wheelchair. Mrs. Wellington, I need you to think back. In these 12 years, did you ever feel anything in your legs? Even tiny things? Things you thought you were imagining. Catherine's eyes went distant. Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. Sometimes at night, I thought I felt tingling, like tiny electric buzzes. But the doctor said that was phantom sensations, that my brain was making it up because it missed walking. Or, Grace said quietly, your nerves were trying to talk to you and nobody was listening. Marcus sank down onto the porch steps. His whole world was tilting sideways. All this time, all these years, all that money spent on specialists who never even checked if things had changed. They weren't checking for change, Grace said. They were managing a condition. There's a difference. Managing means keeping things stable. But your mother doesn't want stable. Do you, Mrs. Wellington? No, Catherine said, her voice growing stronger. I want to move. I want to stand in my garden and touch my roses with my own hands without having to be wheeled there. I want to walk to the kitchen and make my own tea. Her voice broke. I want my life back. Grace stood up and wiped her wet hands on her jeans. Then let's get it back. But I need to warn you both. This is going to be hard. Harder than anything you've ever done. Your muscles have forgotten how to work. Your brain has forgotten how to send the right signals. We have to teach everything all over again, like you're a baby learning to walk for the first time. I don't care how hard it is, Catherine said fiercely. I'm ready. Marcus looked at his mother, really looked at her, and saw a warrior in that wheelchair. When had she become so small in his mind? When had he started thinking of her as fragile instead of strong? What do we do? He asked quietly. Grace smiled. First, we see if she can stand. Marcus's heart stopped. Stand? Right now. Right now, Grace confirmed. Mrs. Wellington, I'm going to help you. Your son is going to help you. We're going to hold you up, and I want you to try, just try, to put weight on your legs. Don't think about walking. Don't think about anything except standing. Can you do that? Catherine nodded, but Marcus could see fear flickering in her eyes. The same fear he felt crushing his chest. What if she couldn't? What if this moment of hope became a moment of devastating failure? Grace positioned herself on one side of the wheelchair. Marcus, moving as if in a dream, took the other side. Together they gripped Catherine's arms. On 3, Grace said. 1, 2, 3. They lifted. Catherine's legs unfolded beneath her like the wings of a bird that had forgotten how to fly. Her feet touched the ground. Her knees wobbled. She made a sound, half gasp, half sob. I can't, she whispered. I can't, I'm falling. We've got you, Grace said firmly. We won't let you fall. Just stand. That's all. Just stand. Marcus felt his mother trembling in his arms. Felt her weight, so light, so fragile. He wanted to put her back in the wheelchair, back in safety, back in comfort. But then he felt something else. Her legs. They were shaking, but they were holding. Not much. Maybe only supporting 10 pounds, maybe 20. But they were there. They were trying. Mom, he breathed. Mom, you're standing. Catherine looked down at her own legs. Her face crumpled. Tears poured down her cheeks. I'm standing, she whispered. Oh, God, I'm standing. Grace's eyes were wet too. Yes, you are. And tomorrow we do it again. And the day after that. And the day after that. Until standing becomes easy. And then I walk, Catherine finished. Then you walk, Grace agreed. They lowered her back into the wheelchair. Catherine collapsed against the cushions, exhausted, shaking, sobbing. But she was smiling. Marcus had never seen his mother smile like that. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of Catherine's life. Every morning, Grace arrived at sunrise. Every morning, she brought the hose. Cold water, warm water. Ice cubes rolled along Catherine's legs. Hot towels followed by freezing ones. Anything to wake up nerves that had been sleeping for 12 years. And every morning, Catherine stood, first for 10 seconds, then 20, then a full minute. Marcus watched it all. He canceled business meetings. He pushed back conference calls. Nothing seemed important anymore except this. His mother fighting for every second on her feet. You don't have to stay, Catherine told him one morning, breathing hard after standing for 2 minutes straight. You have work. This is my work now, Marcus said simply. On day 16, Grace said the words that made Marcus's heart stop. Today, we try a step. Catherine had been standing for 5 minutes, her hands gripping a walker Grace had bought. Her legs still shook, but they were stronger now. Marcus could see actual muscles working beneath her skin. Just one step, Grace said quietly. Move your right foot forward. Just a few inches. That's all. Catherine stared down at her feet, like they were wild animals that might bite. What if I fall? Then we catch you, Marcus said, positioning himself right behind her. We've always caught you, Mom. We're not stopping now. Catherine closed her eyes. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Her whole body trembled with concentration, and then her right foot moved. It scraped along the ground, barely lifting more of a slide than a step, but it moved forward, 3 inches, maybe 4. The sound that came from Catherine's throat was something between a laugh and a scream. I did it. Did you see? I moved. Again, Grace said, her voice thick with emotion. Left foot now. The left foot slid forward, then the right again, then the left. Steps. Tiny, shuffling, barely their steps. But steps. Marcus couldn't see anymore. His eyes were too full of tears. He watched his mother, his 78-year-old mother, who hadn't walked in 12 years, move across the porch. 6 steps. 7. 8. She was walking. On step 9, her strength gave out. Marcus caught her, lowering her gently into the wheelchair. Catherine was gasping, crying, laughing all at once. I walked, she sobbed into his shoulder. Marcus, I walked. You did, Mom, he whispered, holding her tight. You really did. Grace was crying, too, not even trying to hide it. Tomorrow we go for 10 steps, then 20, then 50, and then she pointed to garden path that wound through Catherine's beloved roses. Then we walked to your garden. It took 6 more weeks. 6 weeks of cold water and hot towels. 6 weeks of standing and stepping and falling and getting back up. 6 weeks of pain and frustration and tiny victories that felt like climbing mountains. But on a bright morning in late spring, Catherine Wellington stood at the top of her porch steps with no wheelchair in sight. She held a simple wooden cane in her right hand. Grace stood on her left side, Marcus on her right. Ready? Grace asked. Catherine looked at the garden path. 30 feet away, the roses were blooming, red and pink and yellow and white. She had planted most of them herself, years ago, when her hands were strong and her legs could carry her anywhere. I'm ready, she said. She took the first step, then the second. Her legs were stronger now, but still shaky. The cane helped. Grace and Marcus stayed close, hands ready to catch her if she stumbled. But she didn't stumble. Step by step, Catherine walked down the porch stairs, across the stone pathway, past the fountain where birds splashed, closer to the garden, closer to the roses. 20 steps, 30, 40. Marcus couldn't believe what he was seeing. His mother walking, actually walking, not shuffling, not sliding, walking with real steps, her head held high, determination blazing in her eyes. At the garden gate, Catherine paused. She was breathing hard, but she was smiling. She reached out and touched a red rose, her fingers trembling. I'm here, she whispered to the flower. I came back to you. Then she turned to Grace, the young woman who had appeared in their lives with a garden hose and an impossible promise. Thank you, Catherine said. You gave me back my life. Grace shook her head. No, Mrs. Wellington. You gave it back to yourself. I just reminded you that you could. Catherine pulled Grace into a hug. Then she reached for Marcus, and the 3 of them stood there in the garden, holding each other and crying happy tears while the roses watched. 6 months later, Marcus stood in his office, but it wasn't the same office anymore. He'd sold his old company. Now his office was smaller, simpler, in a building dedicated to something that actually mattered. The sign on the door read, The Grace Foundation, helping forgotten bodies remember. Grace walked in, carrying a clipboard. She was wearing scrubs now, not maid's clothes. She had a whole team of therapists working with her. They specialized in cases like Catherine. People the medical world had given up on. People who just needed someone to believe in them. We have 3 new patients starting next week, she said. One has been in a wheelchair for 8 years. The doctors say it's impossible. Marcus smiled. What do you say? I say let's get the hose ready. Through the window, Marcus could see the building's garden. And there, moving slowly but surely along the path with her cane, was Catherine. She visited every Tuesday, walking among the roses they planted together. She talked to the new patients, sharing her story, giving them hope. She had traded her $40,000 electric wheelchair for a $20 wooden cane. Best trade she ever made. Marcus watched his mother stop to smell a yellow rose, and he thought about all the years wasted, all the doctors who never questioned their initial diagnosis, all the therapists who chose comfort over challenge, all the money spent on making paralysis easier instead of fighting it. But he also thought about Grace, about cold water and courage, about a young woman who refused to accept impossible, and he thought about the real miracle, Not that his mother could walk, but that she had never stopped wanting to try. That 12 years of silence hadn't killed the warrior inside her. It had only put her to sleep. And sometimes, all a miracle needs is someone brave enough to wake it up. Catherine Wellington lived to be 92. She walked every single day until her very last one. She tended her roses, baked cookies for her grandchildren, and danced at Marcus's wedding. When people asked her about the miracle, she always said the same thing. It wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. It was just a woman with a hose and the courage to say, "What if everyone is wrong?" And then she'd smile and add, "Sometimes the biggest miracles come from the smallest moments of belief. You just have to be brave enough to try." If this story touched your heart, imagine how many others need to hear it. Hit that like button. Share with someone who needs hope today. And subscribe so you never miss another powerful story that reminds us miracles happen when we refuse to give up. Your share might be the spark that changes someone's life.